So there's a Supreme Court case that we learned about a week or two ago, and there wasn't much that was reported on this, and that's a little annoying because I think this is actually very serious. So the Hill says the following: the Supreme Court's recent donor disclosure ruling could embolden future challenges to campaign finance rules, experts say. In Thursday's 6-3 decision, split along ideological lines, justices struck down a California statute requiring charities to reveal their donors to state officials. The court's conservative wing said the rule had a chilling effect on First Amendment rights. The ruling doesn't apply to publicly disclosed donors or political groups, but in the majority opinion, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that disclosure laws must be narrowly tailored to important government interests. Experts say Roberts' opinion effectively toughens the standard of review for all laws that compel disclosure, including election rules. Wow. Okay, so right off the bat, I want to swat aside this notion that, the court, it's reasonable for the court to rule this way because free speech, because of the First Amendment. I mean, essentially, they are making the argument that money is speech. In order to make this point, you have to believe on some level that money is speech. And I simply don't buy that. It's just a very convenient loophole and workaround to try to protect legalized bribery and corruption. That's what that is. Because, think about it. If money is speech, then whoever has more money has the ability to speak more and be heard more by our government, which is supposed to be a representative government. So if you're a corporation, not only do you have rights with this philosophy in mind, it's like you have super rights, you have extra rights. You're going to be heard way more than a random grandma in Tuscaloosa. So it's very undemocratic, small d democratic, very undemocratic. Any billionaire, any corporations, they have the loudest voice, so they will be heard the most. And that's exactly what has happened with our government. And there's been a number of cases over the years. It started in the 1970s. And then, recently you had Citizens United and you had McCutcheon. But again, you go back and there's First National Bank of Boston case. There's a number where it was like a drip effect where the Supreme Court slowly but surely started to rule that restrictions on political spending in many contexts is unconstitutional because of free speech. And then now we're even getting laws that even the disclosure of which political donors are giving money where, even disclosing it, is unconstitutional. That's what they're saying. That's the argument they're making. And I find that beyond absurd. If money equals speech, then when you have murder for hire, why shouldn't that be legal? Or at least, because think about it. If you pay somebody to murder somebody for you, you give them money, and the idea is, now you need to go murder this person for me. If you get caught doing that, why can't you make the argument, I literally never murdered anybody. I didn't murder anybody at all. I just gave money to somebody and said, maybe you do it. And they can make the argument, my speech, I have free speech. So me paying somebody to go murder somebody is just me saying, using my words to say, I think murder is okay. You're allowed to express that opinion in the United States of America. That's free speech. So should murder for hire be legal? Now, obviously, the person who commits the murder would still go down because they committed the murder. But if you pay somebody to do it, should you be able to get off? Because you did only speak, right? You paid somebody to do it, but if the payment is just speech, then you're just saying you're okay with murder being legal, right? So, I mean, again, if you apply that logic objectively, you realize it's nonsense. But for some reason, when you apply it to political spending, people are like, oh, that's okay. That's not anywhere near okay. It's obviously not okay. And the Supreme Court even had the nerve to say, this isn't corruption or even the appearance of corruption. It's not the corruption or even the appearance of corruption. So when politicians take money from corporations or billionaires or PACs, and then they end up pushing legislation that does their bidding and not the bidding of what their people want, what the American people want, that's not even the appearance of corruption? That's not even the appearance of corruption. I mean, they're just wrong. And this is just a sloppy intellectual veneer to put over legalized bribery and corruption. And so now they're slowly but surely chipping away even at the transparency of that corruption. See, this was always the bullshit middle ground that Democrats would take. They would be like, well, I guess money in politics is what it is. We can't really change it. But we're in favor of more transparency. So at least you're going to be able to see who's buying your politicians. So a Republican could be ExxonMobil, whatever. See, we can track the money. This random political group that spends on X, Y, or Z, they took money from this rich person in, whatever, in Los Angeles. Now they're saying, no, even that, you can't do that. So, and just so everybody understands, the way it works is a little different when you look at the different legal entities. So, the rules for spending on an individual candidate are different than the rules for spending on a PAC that funds the candidate, or spending on a single issue advocacy group, or spending on a political party. So there are different categorizations under the law that have different levels of rules and regulations that are allowed. But my point is, and this is the point that they're making in this article too, we're slowly creeping towards, the more cases we hear on this, the more cases we see on this, eventually we're just going to get to a total Wild West situation where it's like, there are no constitutional rules and regulations on spending in politics. Whether it's for a candidate, whether it's for a PAC, whether it's for a party, there are no rules at all. And not only no rules, but the people who are doing the corruption have a right to hide their identity from you, and so you don't even know who's buying your politicians. That's where we're headed. And so this is a really important case because it's just another step in that direction, and everybody should be afraid from this. Everybody should condemn this because it's the biggest perversion of the First Amendment that I've ever seen.